Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Quick Slants with Bethel University football coach Steve Johnson. Quick Slants is a weekly program that gives you, the fans, the opportunity to ask the Bethel coach questions about the Royals, baseball or sports in general, or just seek the coach's wisdom about whatever's going on in life. This week, Coach Johnson talks to us about what's going on with his team preparing for St. Thomas this weekend. He discusses a little bit about what's going on in the NFL and answers a couple of fan questions for us. And we hear some depressing news from the coach about what he thinks for the Cubs' chances for the remainder of this postseason. So let's get right to Quick Slants. Okay, we want to welcome back Coach Johnson. So, Coach, let's first of all begin with team updates and injuries from your squad.
Should be getting a couple guys back. We did lose a real good player named David Cushing in the Concordia game, and his knee's not as bad as we thought, but it's bad enough to keep holding him out. So he was a tackle. So we made that adjustment. He's still out, but looks like we'll get Dylan Crum back, who he's played a little bit, but hasn't been, well enough to play a whole game since our first game, which was Stoughton. So he's a senior leader up there, so he'll be able to be back. So the offensive line's a little bit better than we've been. Again, we're just, day to day growing in that area, just because, it had such devastating injuries, and also, everybody just getting moved around. So you continue to grow, and that's kind of that's a good news, bad news, thing there. And then obviously Bryce Marcourt continues to be out, and that's just a huge impact player. But he'll be out for the year. And then other than that, I think we're pretty good.
Before we get into this week's questions about the St. Thomas game, a Cubs update you want to give us on your feelings so far?
You don't want to hear it. If this is family radio. No, I do realize this. I was just talking to one of our coaches. I'm a way better coach than I am a fan. I am the biggest. First of all, I know that I'm a big baby, but my brothers and myself are throwing things and all that stuff. When I calm down, you just have to be good at the fundamentals and play the best you can and go to the next deal. But I guess I could say that I should practice what I preach when it comes to the Cubs. But very frustrated right now, and everyone said, "Well, just be happy that they made it this far," and I'm not. So I'm trying to be. So I better get in Psalm 139 and scour my heart here. So
excellent. Looking at this upcoming week, tell us a little bit about, you've been on a bye week during this last 10 days, so tell me a little bit about what you feel like you're coming away from the bye week itself with.
I think the first thing anybody would say was that you get a rest from the pounding, and I think that you could probably do that any week, but I think that we did have some days off, and we were intentional about it. We had a real busy last Monday, and then a day off, and then a couple of pretty hard days, and then a day off, and then just a conditioning work, and then a day off. So that's not normal. And so this week we were able to just be a little bit ahead. And so Monday we had kind of some groundwork already done. And so we were able to practice. This time of year you don't really pound one another, but we had Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, and so we'll practice fairly regular, and then kind of hone in on Thursday is more of a polished day, and making sure all our checks and our plan is in, and so on and so forth. So I think it gives us it's not so much of a break as it is it's a break in routine, and there is a little bit of time off, and there is a little bit of injury recovery, but you don't want to just kind of stop, because there's a flow that's really important too. So it's all philosophy basically.
I'm kind of curious from you. Will Van Duzer had told me last year that because the bye week was really early in the season, it kind of challenged to stay healthy because of, then you got 7 or 6 straight weeks of pounding kind of going at you. Do you prefer a later bye week in the season yourself?
Well, this year, obviously, it's the greatest. I prefer, I don't know, I guess, I don't, not to look at it like with, rose-tinted glasses, but whatever it is, I like it. You know what I mean? And so we don't really pick, our scheduling, because there's a hole in the schedule because McAllister left the league a while back. You have to fill that hole where it's not very easy to do, kind of depending where it is. And so last year we filled it with the University of Chicago, and then this year the game that we had there was moved, so we had to get another one, and so that came with the University of Wisconsin Stout, and so we played them early. And this year, you have to stay healthy. Obviously, this year we have a bye week later, but we had a lot of injuries where last year we didn't even report until a week later because our bye week was immediate. It didn't even seem like a bye week. It was we just went straight through, and we probably were healthier, but then at the end we lost Will and we lost Lana Mathis, and we lost, so we lost a bunch of guys up there. So you just don't know, you do what you do, and if you have a bye week, you want to handle it right, or the best you can. I mean, I don't know what right is. It's kind of like you got to stay in the process and, not think ahead, or, you just have to do what you do each day, and it's kind of a good thing for life too.
Absolutely. Looking at our game up against St. Thomas this weekend, you take on St. Thomas, 6th in the country, ranked nationally. What are some keys that you think of for this game?
Their offensive line is huge, so we're gonna, try to not have those guys eat our guys. And they're a good team, a really good team, and they play hard, they execute, they're physical. Keys to the game. I thought the keys to last night's Cub game was, get more runs than them, and I guess that would be getting more points than the Tommies. As usual, the turnovers are huge in a championship type game. We like to, talk about emotion and how many wins in a row and what's everybody, all those things, that those don't really apply as much as execution, and do your job, stay in the fight, and just play as hard as you can for as long as you can, which is our goal every week.
They have quite an offensive juggernaut this season, so is this kind of a week that you preach even tougher about, hey, you got to stay to your base this time?
Yeah, we always do that. But I think, I don't know if we change our message as much, and sometimes I get worried, say something in a different way, but we don't ever want to change our bait, because people ask about that. Well, this week is the one, and this week, and I cringe at that, because we want to be in the moment, in the process, in what we're doing each day. But I would say this, is that we don't change, but I think the kids' alertness to listening and working, and the importance of that is, and that's something that we like to identify. Last night we talked just a little bit at the beginning of practice just about, this game is going to require a lot of toughness. And sometimes when you say that, you just think, bench press or smash somebody, or, walk, and we just want to identify what is toughness. And in practice, when we're not hitting, besides the line, is that toughness might be staying in when you're not in. Getting a rep when you're watching or helping your, but and then we talk about how in class, it might not be your favorite subject, but you need to stay in the fight. And so that discipline that you bring to that is the same thing that's toughness. And so, if just about everything requires toughness, but it's not always like banging your head against one another. Sometimes it's just the discipline of staying in. If it's boring, or if it's, the heat gets hot, stay in the fight, and that's toughness.
Excellent. You faced Coach Caruso almost 10 times now. Tell me a little bit about what you've learned from him as a coach, or what you've learned about him as a coach.
I didn't know that we have done that so far, and I've never really played him. It's just the players play, and
Sure.
Coach Caruso, he's got some intensity, and we're different guys, and he he looks at a lot of stats, and I don't, and he kind of has some different things, but he's got great philosophies, and he's got an intensity about football, and about building a program, and he's done a great job over there, and it's a place where some people will feel like, well, St. Thomas, they have it all, and at the same time there's a lot of pressure there, so you really have to manage everything, whatever you have, and if you have injuries, you have to manage it. If you have bad weather, you have to manage it, and he's pretty good at that. And he's a preparation guy, and he really he's meticulous in those things, and so it's kind of like a personality thing, and so I'm sure we learn from each other, but you kind of watch each other, but you got to stay who you are.
Very true. Let's see. St. Thomas can be very difficult to play, a very difficult place for you to go into. So tell me what you do to prepare your freshman quarterback to play in that atmosphere.
I think the magnitude of the game takes care of itself. It's like you got to go through it. You can't simulate anything, that way. There's enough pressure applied to each person. I don't think people that are super critical of a quarterback never took a snap, and there's a different exposure to a cornerback or a safety than there is to a nose guard. And they both got different, as far as fans, if the nose guard screws up, the coaches might know, but that's about it, and the nose guard, maybe the guy next to him, but if the free safety does, everybody in the stands, everything else. And so when I get back to the question, I would say, for all of our quarterbacks, whether it's Joe or Trey or Andrew, they have to stay in the moment. You have to, trust your base, like you talked about, whereas, hey, get the snap, it'd be a great idea, and so, because if you get too far ahead, and you're basically you have to block out all the kind of the hype or the noise or whatever it is, it's all noise. You got to keep the noise out, and so at practice we were intense, and we expect a lot out of one another, and we'll just do that Saturday.
I want to ask along that kind of line, is there a point where maybe some coaches overstress that so much that they basically take their quarterback out of the game before he even enters the field because they get too hyped up about it?
Yeah, I think that there's a chance for that. I think that, you get talking, and I think that we've overdone that in the past, where we've had some hurdles that we never felt like we could get through, back in the 90s even, when that you just don't know. And I don't think there's this, there's not a manual for it. It's kind of like raising your kids. It's like, I know what to do now that they're old, you know what I mean? And I just think that as you go along, you have to know your guys, and what they're going to respond to and all that. But we're in it together, so we want to teach the best we can. We want them to play the best they can, and stay in today. But I do think you can. It's a good question. I think that you can kind of overhype everything, and you can overdo it. You're kind of, it's that balance. It's kind of managing that stress, because if you overdo it, you can get scared, and if you underdo it, you don't want surprises.
Absolutely. Yeah. On to our fan questions this week. First, Mike from St. Paul would like to know, is there a special satisfaction you gain out of beating a team like St. Thomas? And go Royals, he adds.
No, yeah, good job with the Go Royals. I think when we lost to a few weeks ago at Concordia, they went crazy, and at first I thought, and then I thought, well, that's a compliment. It's a big deal. It was a big deal to beat us, and so that's big. And it's a big deal. It's a big deal if the Tommies beat us. We've beaten them the last 2 years, and they have the upper hand in the league. But if we win, we do, and so there's a lot at stake. I think that when there's a lot at stake, it's a big deal. I don't know if it's like beating St. Thomas is. There's a great satisfaction in beating somebody who's really good. Not just because they're a nemesis or anything like that, but it's been St. Thomas and Bethel and St. John's. I've kind of shared the title for about 10 years, and so the intensity of those games is pretty high, and so winning is big. And one of the things that we want to celebrate. We want to celebrate winning each game, and the process is more important than kind of the outcome. And what we need to do is be great in how we play and let winning take care of itself. But when you lose, you beat yourself to death, it feels like, and when you win, you better celebrate, and and I don't mean like obnoxious, but I mean just feel good about what you did and how you did, because we're trying to get more points than the other guys, and that's kind of what we're doing. So there is a bigger satisfaction, but it's not because if you bring in like you don't like the other team or there's a hatred piece, usually that hate is disguised as envy, or the other way around. So I just think there is satisfaction beating them, but it's because they're a team that's in the mix with us all the time.
Excellent. Our next question comes from Craig from Arden Hills, who asks, Coach, last year the Royals got a big lead against St. Thomas. Do you think that you can do that against them? Again, against them?
Yeah, the last couple of years we've gotten the lead. We've played well. It's been a tough, really two physical teams, and we know each other pretty well. And we've gotten ahead, and then they stormed back and made some plays, and then they took the lead, and then we won at the end. The last 2 years have been the exact same situation, and you just have to. You kind of just know that you're in a dogfight, and I don't really try to speculate how a game's going to go. We want to execute. We want to have everything. We want to be ready for as much as we possibly can. We want to make plays, and you don't want to be stupid, but you don't want to be, so. I mean, if you could control everything that much, it wouldn't be as fun as it is. There's joy in the craziness of a sport, except with the Cubs.
Yeah, I bet. A person identifying himself as a Royals football fan says, "Why doesn't Bethel get a stadium like St. Thomas? I would think that would really help recruiting." I don't. That's a good question. I like our stadium. Our stadium fits at our place, and we need to snazz it up a little bit and do some nice things around it. But I like how it's tucked in. The St. Thomas one, they've done some things, and I don't. Our jumbotron is a 15-inch Mac, and so I don't want to do I don't know. We really have we have a really good turf. It's real grass, but it's prescription turf, so it really plays well. It plays fast, and stadium-wise, I think you play in the stadium that you have, and it's home, and recruiting. We're just recruiting hearts anyway, so if the stadium's that big of a deal, they might not want to come here anyway. Very true. James from Minneapolis asks, Bethel and St. Thomas as schools and football programs seem different from one another. Does it seem to you that St. Thomas is kind of the anti-Bethel in attitude and approach?
I don't know if it's, maybe, I don't know. I don't know if it's anti or we're just different. Bethel we're just who we are. We want to be just a bunch of guys that are love the Lord, love the game, love each other, and have that kind of thing just permeate, and we think that there's power in together. And so I think the more our guys love each other, and sometimes that's with a kiss and sometimes that's with a kick, the more our guys love each other, the stronger we are. But that if, as you grow in that approach, you call one another to be better blockers and better, and make plays in tight situations and all those different things. And so I don't know that, I think that they are different from one another, and I think that, as someone sees it, we want to try to be who we are. We don't want to be really against anybody else, and I would think that St. Thomas is the same way. I don't know how they are, but, I don't know.
Okay. Caleb from St. Paul asks, are your players really excited about a game like this?
Sure, that's a good question too, because that's kind of what I was saying before. When you play St. Thomas, when you play St. John, I mean, just about everybody in our league, it's becoming that way. But especially St. John's, St. Thomas, and Concordia, the players, there's a little bit of a, you can tell in practice. There's an intensity kind of, but they're listening, and it's like you can say this stuff, and if it's, if we're playing someone who's not, whoever, it's not gonna come across the same, and it's because of the ears that are hearing, and so I think there's a heightened awareness in a Tommy or Johnny week, and I think that would be probably true with us for some other teams.
Absolutely. Jim from Martin Hills would like to know, Coach, can you explain that Colts-Patriots punt play to me? I don't really get that one.
Yeah, I missed some communication somewhere there. I'm sure that I think I just saw a piece of it and I heard a bunch about it, but a lot of times when you do get into a kind of a funky formation, you're kind of counting players, and somebody told the center, or didn't tell the center, that the Patriots lined up to stop it, and so whatever, it was really a communication problem, because I'm sure they didn't want to snap the ball and just get killed.
Yeah,
So a lot of times when you do that, you set it up, you take a peek at what the defense is giving you and reacting to, and if they, you can go this way or else just punt it. And I got a feeling that somebody yelled something out and it turned into a fiasco.
It was pretty scary looking. Mm-hmm. Tammy from St. Paul would like to know, did you see how Michigan lost that game to Michigan State? Fans have been so mean to that poor punter. Don't they need to lay off him?
Yes. I felt horrible for him. I did see that. I did see that happen, and I really liked the coaches at both schools. I like Jim Harbaugh. I like Coach D'Antonio and Michigan State, and so I just thought that there's just so much loss in that thing, and that and when you lose one like that, it's just like everybody kind of, the coach feels bad because, geez, should we have called something else? And you don't expect the ball to be on target and you drop it, and then when you pick it up, instead of just getting on it, and then that play gets analyzed to death, and there's a zillion other plays in the game that were done well, so it's a hard deal. And if the one thing I'd say to the people that are being mean to the punter is that quote, and I don't know who said it, but I think Teddy Roosevelt's the one where it's like the critic isn't even in the fight, he's not even in the arena. So if you've ever had to catch, I remember being years ago when I was at Minnesota, I remember one time I stood back there and caught the snap from a guy named Bobby Golden, and holy mackerel, that thing came back. I don't know, you got to be a pretty good athlete to catch that doggone thing. And so people that are criticizing outside the arena, just like me with the Cubs, I'd like to I'm very ticked off at the Cubs, and I'm a guy who, you know, catcher, the ball got by Montero, and I'm kind of mad at Montero, and I just maybe am learning to shut up because nobody asked me to be the catcher there, and if I was, the ball would have probably gone to Kenosha.
I think people forget that this guy is like 20, 21 years old. He just doesn't need that kind of blasting out on social media or whatever.
I do think that's a struggle at the college and the pros. We've gotten that mixed up a little bit, that these college kids are, and they're not making $1 million, and they're not NFL. Not every guy is NFL. Even thinking that way. They just want to be part of a team and do the best they can. So.
Paul from Martin Hills asked, and I'm hoping he's not asking this as a homework assignment, but I am curious about your take on the story of the prodigal son. I hear people talk about how they feel they are the brother who stayed at home or the one who left, but aren't we really both brothers at different times?
No doubt about it. I think there's, that's kind of a, that's why that parable is so terrific, is that it's got a lot of different stuff for everybody, and be in the fight every day. If you're in the fight every day, there's times when you wander, and but the message for me in that thing is that there's grace, and and there's a couple of things that come out of it as a grace piece. To come back, you can always come back. There's consequences, but sometimes when you stay, are you really there? And that's one for me, and one of the things we talk about is don't treat as ordinary what's consecrated to you. If you're staying here because this is where you belong, where you feel called, where you're at, then be there. And we kind of have a society, and we're a distracted group, and you're kind of looking out to where the grass is greener on the other side, and maybe you should just stay where you're at and fertilize your own lawn, and something else comes up. You know what I mean? So there's a million things in there, and that's why it's a great parable.
For sure. Our next question comes from Jenny from Minneapolis, who'd like to know what your favorite Halloween moment was.
Yeah, Halloween was a lot different when I was a kid. It was just like basically a race. I lived in Chicago, and it was like driveway house. There's no yard, so there was, we had a city block, and there must have been 25 houses on our block. So we would just, the minute we got up, we'd trick or treat and just accumulate as much candy as we could. Now I think there's more around it, which is it feels a lot more satanic now. They're just like crazy stuff, and you'd always hear about something bad, but in the early 60s, I just wanted to get as many Snicker bars as you thought. And I do remember this as I don't know if it's a favorite moment, but it's something that cracks me up, is I remember when you'd get like a full candy bar for someone, no matter what house they lived in, you kind of thought they were rich. So anybody who had like a Cadillac or a full Snickers bar at Halloween, those guys must be rich.
That's a great standard. Our last question comes from Henry from Richfield, who asks, with all the Star Wars hoopla underway now, do you have a favorite movie in the series of your own?
Well, probably not. I'm not even, I don't know. Yeah, I like the first one. I saw it at the movie theater, before we had Netflix, and I think probably saw it before VCRs. So I saw and so I guess that'd probably be I'm a fan. I guess I'm not a fan, because that would be a fanatic. I enjoy Star Wars, but I'm not quite as into it as maybe I should be. But yeah.
I'm sure you have lots of other stuff going on besides that. So.
I'd probably just watch Tombstone over again.
Thank you for joining us this week, Coach.
Thank you.
We want to thank Coach Johnson for joining us on Quick Slants this week. If you have your own questions you'd like to ask the Bethel University coach, please send them to us at stevejohnson@minorleaguesportsreport.com. That's Steve Johnson at minorleaguesportsreport.com. Please have your questions to us by Tuesday afternoon so we can give the coach a little bit of time to review them before we record the show Wednesday morning. We want to thank you for joining us this week. I'm Rob Paneer, the managing editor of the Minor League Sports Report, and we'll see you next week on Quick Slants.